Hey everybody, Simone here with Bulletproof Business Growth, as always with some ideas and insights, what to pay attention to when you're growing and scaling your business. So today's title is Burnout isn't about working too much, it's about working on the wrong things. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Because when you think about it, everybody goes through cycles at work, and but do you ever wonder why your best employees suddenly seem like they're distant, they're detached, they're not really showing up? And it doesn't necessarily mean that they've gotten lazy or they've gotten entitled or they're just overwhelmed with the amount of work, because that's generally what everybody assumes. What's more likely the case is that they are burned out, but not necessarily in the way that you think. So today's episode is about the real root of burnout, not the hours, not the workload, but the soul sucking sameness, like the lack of meaning and the silent leadership failures that keep people stuck in the wrong seats, doing the wrong things. And I'll also show you why I know we've been talking about AI a lot, but that's because it is such an incredibly powerful tool if we use it the right way. But so I'll show you today why AI used in the right way might be your most powerful weapon that you have against burnout. So, let's get something straight to start with. Burnout is, and I really want to emphasize this, burnout is not a volume problem. I mean, yes, it can be, but it's not just a volume problem. It's a value problem. Because you can work 60 hours a week, 7 days a week, and feel like you're energized because the work is meaningful, it's challenging, and it's tied to something bigger than yourself. It's meaningful to you, it's fitting with your identity, and you feel alive and excited about doing it. But, give me just 30 hours of something meaningless, like busy work, stuck in meetings, chasing unclear goals with no room to grow and really no place to go, and I'll be glazed over and completely disengaged really, really fast. And I think that's the same for most people. So burnout most often shows up as exhaustion. But under the surface, it's emotional disconnections, because it kind of feels like your work doesn't matter anymore. It's unclear what you're contributing towards. You're stuck in doing the same tasks the same way, and it's never stretching, it's never exciting. So that is especially true for the newer generations, for millennials, Gen Z, because these generations place enormous value on growth, not just advancement, but skill building, creativity, personal growth, personal development. And when that's missing, so is kind of the excitement, the will, the inspiration to keep pushing. So if you're seeing burnout in your company, don't just look at people's workload, at their schedules. Look, and this is really where leadership comes in, because this is where you want to look at the substance of their work. Is it challenging? Is it purposeful? Is it aligned with who that person is and, of course, who they want to become? And that's something that you should be finding out every week when you talk to them in your one-on-ones with them, when you talk about growth goals, when you talk about personal goals. Because like I just alluded to, the hard truth is that burnout is very often a sign of poor leadership. Not because, it's not about you working hard enough as the owner, but it's because somewhere along the way, your team lost clarity. And as leaders, that's very truly on us. Because people can't thrive in confusion. They need to know, what are we doing here? Why does it matter? What does success look like? How will I know I'm winning? And what is my contribution here? How do I matter in this equation? Because without clear goals and defined metrics and a meaningful connection to their purpose within this whole thing, team members just default to survival mode. Just do the tasks, get it done, check the boxes, don't get in trouble, kind of do the bare minimum. And that's when you as the owner think, well, they're just kind of phoning it in. They're just kind of here for the paycheck. So that's not engagement. What really happens here is quiet quitting in disguise. And you know, as a leader, your role consistently, right? Not just when you hire this person, not when you have like a corrective session with them, but paint the vision, right? Consistently paint the vision, align the people with it, place them in the seats where they can actually thrive, where they feel like they're learning something, they're challenged. And then of course it's your job to coach them through their challenges and make sure that they're not stuck doing work a machine could be doing. And that's something that we have to consider more and more. The right automations take the stuff off people's plates that they really don't want to do, because too often we keep people in roles that don't match their strengths simply because we don't slow down, we don't look, we don't rethink kind of the organization, the org chart, or of course when you have top performers, you overload them because they are reliable, they're the ones that kind of take the stress off your plate, which of course on the other side it silently punishes their competence, and of course that also kind of means it breeds resentment, especially if they're seeing other people on the team, you know, kind of phoning it in or not showing up, and they're taking up the slack. Then this feels almost like a punitive development. So, you know, burnout really blooms in misalignment, and leadership is here to cure this by designing roles that align thoughts with mission and challenge with capacity and tasks with purpose, because that's how everybody thrives when those things come together. So there are three things that every high performing employee needs to avoid burnout. As we already talked about, growth. You know, they have to be able to ask themselves, am I learning? Am I evolving? And am I expanding my capabilities? Second one is challenge. You know, am I being stretched just enough, positively enough, to really stay engaged and be excited about what I'm doing? In meaning, you know, does what I do matter? Of course, to someone, to the company, but also to me, right? It's like it can't just matter in the bigger picture or just to the company. It has to matter to them as well. So burnout sneaks in when those three are missing. And that means the work becomes kind of autopilot. The days kind of all blur together, and the person becomes invisible feeling, and they disengage more and more and more. So when you have a high achiever, they won't necessarily say this out loud at first, because they don't really want to be this person, but over time they will quietly disengage, and that means your productivity drops, your initiatives fade, you stop getting new ideas from people, and that means now we're getting that minimum effort in, that they're just doing enough not to get fired because they are overwhelmed, they are bored, and this comes from being burned out. So if you are not creating intentional paths for your people to learn new skills, to take on new responsibilities, or to contribute to even bigger conversations, well, they will burn out. And then that means their workload, even if their workload seems reasonable. Remember earlier I said it's not about volume, it's about value. So it's your job to give them the work to do that seems and is valuable, not just to you, but also to them. And like I said earlier, the younger generations, it's super important to them. Millennials and Gen Z don't just want a job, they want a kind of a vehicle, right? They want to feel like this is an envelope for meaning, for community, and for growth. They want to feel like they're building something that matters, and that somebody actually sees their effort. And that goes right back to human needs theory that I love to talk about, because they want to know, hey, I matter, its significance and its impact, right? I matter, and what I do matters, and that really needs to shine. So now let's tie that in with AI, and not as a buzzword, but really as a burnout killer here, because the biggest contributor to burnout isn't the hard stuff, it's the dumb stuff, right? The hard stuff can be fun because you have stuff to solve, you have a challenge, but the dumb stuff, the stuff you do over and over that you do on autopilot, that's the stuff that makes everybody just exhausted. So, you might be talking about endless data entry, rewriting the same email over and over and over, dealing with scheduling chaos, updating spreadsheets that nobody reads anyway, sifting through inboxes just to see if you can find some buried thread somewhere. But AI is the easy tool that removes all that sludge because it can handle repetitive admin tasks. When you think about it, can automate your follow-ups, it can transcribe and summarize meetings, it can clean up data and build draft reports, and even personalize communication very, very quickly. Like what, as humans, takes us forever, and part of the forever is because it's so hard to stay focused. AI can do that in a split second. So what could this mean for your team? It means that their brain could now be freed up for higher value work. It means much less time spent on tasks that feel robotic and much more time spent on what actually makes them feel alive, what makes them feel like they actually want to show up for this. So this is where they get to solve problems creatively. That's where they actually get to connect with your clients, which of course, that's high value for the clients. They can design better experiences. They can start leading initiatives. This is when so often our clients complain that their teams aren't strategic enough. Well, it's because you're not leading them in that direction. So then they can actually start getting out of level one delegation where you just hand them tasks, and they actually can get into leading entire projects or business areas because now that they're thinking strategically. And it also involves and introduces novelty, which is one of the best antidotes to burnout. Whenever that's like one of the therapies is learn something new. Like sometimes it seems like get a new hobby, right? Something completely unrelated to what you do, but even at work, if you start learning something new, it gets your creative juices flowing. It starts really digging into the other side of your brain. So when your team starts learning how to use AI to amplify their work, now they're growing, they're adapting, they're becoming future ready, and they feel like this is a challenge, and this is growing them as a person, but also their careers are growing. And of course, that unlocks a really powerful mindset shift because now it feels like I'm not replaceable, which of course many, many employees right now are very afraid of. They want to feel like they're irreplaceable, or in the worst case, they're relevant because I know how to use the tools, right? So that's the best thing you could possibly do to them. And leaders who embrace AI not as a replacement, but as a force multiplier are the ones that build businesses that really energize their teams, not drain them, right? So this is where you get to come in and really help your team feel relevant, and that their value is only growing and not diminishing. So how do you actually lead in a way that prevents burnout even as your business grows? So let's talk about the blueprint that I talk about a lot, and it always starts with clarity. So everybody has to know the mission, the vision, the priorities, and their role in it. So no more fog there. This is where you hand them the big picture so that they really understand where the business is going, how they fit into it, what their contribution is, and what their strategy is within that. So that's the big picture, the clarity. Second one is context. People don't just understand what to do, but why to do it. So every task has a meaning because they understand how it fits into the bigger picture. So now it makes sense, which also means that they know how all the dots connect. And that also means they can take much better care in terms of not dropping any pieces. So that's context. 3 is communication. Of course, feedback flows both directions. And that means that expectations are clear. Then you can really celebrate wins, and everybody can express their concerns and feel that they're being heard, or that they can say what they need to say. And so nobody feels like they're they're not part of the conversation. Fourth one is consistency. So important. No more random shifts in direction. Everything that you're saying is being said over and over and over again. There's no, like, today we're doing this and tomorrow we're doing that. People now start trusting the process, because leadership is much more reliable and predictable feeling, not the chaotic, I don't really know what's happening every day. And then the fifth piece here is care. I mean, people aren't just resources. They're humans with goals, with fears, with ambitions and needs. And when they feel seen, they show up a lot stronger, which is really good news for you as a business owner. So if you want loyalty from your team, start here. If you want to grow sustainably, definitely start here. And if you want to have a team that drives performance without burning out and without everything always coming back to you, also definitely start here. Great culture doesn't just happen because you hired good people. It happens because you hired good people and then you lead them like a good leader. And that's really what, when you think about why do good people stay, it's because of that. So burnout isn't just a red flag for your team, it's a mirror for your leadership. And because when people feel stuck and unchallenged and unseen, they don't just check out mentally, they leave. And now all these resources that you probably invested a lot of time, money, and energy into are not there anymore. But honestly, it really doesn't have to be that way. You can build a business where people want to show up. And that's really best case scenario, where your team is energized, where you're focused on strategy, not just stuck in the weeds, because that is when your team can take care of the everyday stuff that happens and they can actually shine in that aspect. That means now you are actually able to focus on strategy, on growth, on innovation. This is kind of what you should be doing, and relationships, of course, which is what you should be doing as a business owner. And in that scenario, this is where AI becomes your burnout killing and growth scaling secret weapon. So look, if you're ready to stop running your business like you did 20 years ago, kind of from a place of chaos, and start scaling it from a place of clarity, you want to check out our new tool. So go to aibusinessscalingblueprint.com/boost, aibusinessscalingblueprint.com/boost, because this is your fast track to getting the right systems, automation, and AI in place in a way that makes sense, so that you and your team can finally focus on the work that actually moves the needle. So don't burn out, build better. Go to aibusinessscalingblueprint.com/boost and let us know if you need any help with anything. I will see you next time.